Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by dogs. What they thinking about in their little fluffy heads. Now, let's dim the lights and start the show.
Welcome, everyone, to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by The Winds of Wicaro. The spicy new romantasy from Carol Circa, Sail Away on The Winds of Wicaro, on sale at Walden Books. Welcome, everyone, to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we're filmmakers. We create things. We act in front of the camera and edit stuff. And we've been working in production for quite some time now. And now we like to, look at a movie, review it, see what we can learn from that whole experience, what we're taking away from it, and what we like, what we don't like, all the fun stuff. And before we were rolling, you and I were talking, and I was talking about last night. I was working on a script. I'm nearly done with a new feature script. That's my thing this year, is I'm trying to get reps in writing feature films. And so I've written 2 already. This is going to be my 3rd. And I'm hoping to write 1, maybe even 2 more by the end of the year, which we're in November right now. And that would be in like the next 7 weeks. That would be a feat, and I'm not like stressed over it or anything, but it's good to have a goal. I operate really nicely on self-imposed timelines, maybe even more with an actual deadline. But if I give myself a deadline, I tend to operate pretty well. But you were bringing up a really interesting question, and it was stemming from Stephen Graham, one of the writers behind Adolescence, and he was talking about like his writing process, and that's a really interesting thing. And so that was leading you into a general question, because you have things that you think you've written before, and you write really nicely. I really loved that short film you wrote. I remember coming to you and I was like, dude, there's a short film in you, and I think it's this. And you literally went away, and it felt like overnight came back with like a 10-page script. And I was like, holy crap, this is great. And so, yeah, what was the general idea, the question that was burning your keister?
Yeah. So, so I saw, and if anybody who's listened to the podcast knows that we love Adolescence. Like, this show is just incredible. And Stephen Graham had he was inspired to write it because of real events that had happened, that he came across, that he saw in the news of whatever. And point is that he was inspired by something he wanted to, and then he just sat down and wrote it. He wrote this, he directed it, he starred in it. And he's incredible in the show, but just the idea of writing in general, and I'm not like, I can sit down and write a piece of music in 5 minutes, and it can be great or it can be shit, but I can do a whole thing, right? But when you're talking about, writing an 8-hour series, right? Or a 1.5-hour film, that takes weeks or months, years sometimes. And I am blown away by people like yourself who can sit down and just do that. Like, it's totally different music. And so my question to you was what is, when you think, I want to write something, do you have an idea already? Or do you just sit down in stream of consciousness, try to figure out what it is that you want to write? And if you do have an idea, how much of that idea is kind of fleshed out? Like, do you say, I think I have 2 or 3 characters, I don't know what their names are, but I want them to start here and get here by the end of what I'm writing or something? Like, do you know the end when you start? Like, there are so many questions that I think other writers, would want to hear. And for somebody who's written multiple screenplays, like, what is your workflow? Like how do you do it? Like, how do you start? That's the question.
That's the question. How do you start? And that is hard. Nothing's worse than a blank page. And so right. And so coming to the blank page with something you want to write is like everything for me. And varies depending on the story. For me, it's really important to know thematically what I'm trying to talk about. If I understand this is going to be a story about authoritarianism, then I can start to frame all my characters, all my scenes and situations and through lines around the idea of authoritarianism. Like this script that I'm about to finish right now, I'm probably have 2 or 3 more scenes to write, and then I'll be done. Was the beginning was just a moment. And I knew, okay, there's a moment where a little girl is praying to God and God shows up. I mean, that alone is already like, whoa, like, okay, what happens then, right? And it can get your mind going. Just the idea of having a moment and a scene is a really great starting point of building everything else out. Because we look at, a movie as this crazy 5-course dinner, and you're just like, where do you even start? Like, how do you know you need, reduced wine or something? Like, how do you have these crazy sauces and all this stuff happen? Where the hell do you even start? And that's a really good place to start. Is there's a scene that I want to write, and I just have to write this scene. And from there, you can start really carving everything else out. And for me, starting with a theme is just huge because it informs so much of what I do. A lot of writers, I think I'm more of the exception when it comes to theme. Most writers that I hear talk about writing say, figure out theme later, tell your story, and then by the end of it, you'll know what your themes are. And then you can do a rewrite and then start to bring out theme. You can dial down other things or switch your dialogue out, but you'll know what you're really trying to say. And a lot of other writers start with a scene or an idea or a conflict. Any of those things can work. Good Will Hunting started by that scene, that first therapy session between Will and Sean. That whole movie came out of that scene. You would never think we're going to get this from that, and yet in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense. But knowing like there's a kid who's got all the confidence in the world, and you have a therapist who's lost it all, who's just had his heart ripped out, and now he's lacking all that confidence. Okay, now we got somewhere to really start cooking because you have a really great contrast. And great contrast can really develop so much because then you can start pouring in your life experiences into each of these characters. And so, yeah, I think some people do that. Some people, and I kind of do all these things, to be honest. Every story is its own beast. Like I started with the last script, it's called The War Department, was just a very vague concept that I'd had in my head for years, where I guess I'll give up my big idea here, which is I like the idea of shrinking down the entire world into one single neighborhood where each house represents a different country. And I didn't know how to use that for years and years. I was like, I knew I wanted to talk about foreign policy and how America treats the other nations, and that's very easy to represent through each nation having a household. I was like, okay, but how is that all operating? And eventually it just clicked. And I was like, I know exactly how to approach this, but I had that idea floating around for years and years. And from there, yeah, it started to build itself out as I understood the themes and the symbolism that I wanted to get at. But other people, that's just, they have their big idea, like, oh, I really want to have a movie that's whatever, an action-packed film. Where would you even begin with that? Well, what does the character need or want or want to prevent, right? Like any one of those things can suddenly be like, okay, well, a character wants to stop a terrorist from winning. Great. How does he know the terrorist? Well, maybe they have a history. Great. Why do they have a history? Well, he stopped him once before. He's a cop. And he prevented the cop prevented the terrorist from getting what he wanted. He was just called to the scene. And now this terrorist has it in for him. You don't know exactly which movie I'm describing right now. This could be Speed. It could be Die Hard.
Training Day.
There's a lot of directions you could take this very simple idea. Yeah, Training Day really does. The inception of it is a cop. He's a crooked cop, but he gets into debt. And how does he get out of debt? That suddenly builds out a whole story. And so there's a lot of ways you can start your story. But I think if you can have just one moment in that story that you love, that you just have to tell, that'll be something everyone else wants to gravitate towards. And you can start fleshing out from there everything around it. How do they get there? How do they get out? There's a lot of ways to start approaching your story from there. And for me, once I know that, I can start to build out the characters that I need. Not the characters that I think are necessarily fun, but that are helping communicate something of my ideas to the world. Yeah.
You know, this is awesome. What you just said was like made a lot of sense in that, like, okay, you have an idea, and the idea can be as basic, you know, a trainee going on a drive with an older experienced cop, right? Great. Like, that's it. That's the idea. And then you just start asking a question to yourself, right? Like that makes a lot of sense because, you know, if I'm watching a movie, I'm going to be asking questions throughout the movie, whether I am in my head, you know, consciously or not. I'm just constantly asking questions. And so if I ask those questions, not knowing the answer because I don't know the story, because I haven't like written it yet, then it's going to give me some answer. And if I like that answer, okay, then I ask another question about that answer, and then another question. It's almost like you, not that it's the ending, but the idea is the main picture. But then you have these like little, I guess, routes that your questions can lead you down that you don't even. You couldn't have come up with it just sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to write this. You kind of have to dig into it. That's really smart. It's kind of like the idea, what is it? The 5 whys, I guess it is, where if you ask yourself the question of why 5 times, it gets you to the real meaning of whatever you feel or whatever you think.
Wow.
Have you heard about that?
No, that's very cool.
Yeah. If you think something, ask yourself why, and then you have an answer, ask yourself why again. And if you do that enough times, you get to the real meat of the why. And so this makes total sense of like, okay, it gets you down to the base or like the real story, you know?
And sometimes like, even whenever I'm writing, it's like when I write poetry, usually I'm trying to discover something about how I feel. That's my version of getting to a why. Sometimes I'm just upset and I don't really understand why, and I'll just write a poem, and eventually it'll come out, and I'll be like, I didn't know that's exactly what this was. Cool. Sometimes the exact same thing is happening with a screenplay where I'm trying to understand something about the world, and also about myself. And as I'm writing, I have to make very honest characters who are speaking honestly. And that often leads me to discover something that I didn't realize or I couldn't articulate, maybe more specifically. And then through that process, I discover so much. And you don't always have to know your ending right away. I usually do, but sometimes I think I do. And I am aiming at an ending. And then once I get close, I'm like, I thought it was going to be exactly this. And it's only kind of that. It's actually... here's where the poetry in this story is. It's going to be over here. And if anyone wants to read these, I'm not super precious about it. Like, you can email us info@thepestlepodcast.com and write like electric boogaloo in the subject line.
Please do.
And ask, to read something. That's totally fine. But yeah, it's a process, and I'm still learning. Like, I'm still working out my own process. And I think the next one that I write, because the way Hollywood works, man, they don't do it. If you're giving a story to write, you don't get to just say, cool, I'll get back to you. You have to write a whole treatment that says this is what my story is going to be. You don't really get to discover in the writing. You have to discover in the treatment, which is a very high level like synopsis of the entire movie. This and then this and then this and then this. And then you got to go write exactly that, or at least very, very, very close to that. And so I'm excited about this next script because I'm going to be writing with Justin Betancourt, and I'm writing based off his idea. Now I'll get to do whatever I want technically because he's very open, but I will try to treat it the way I would have to treat a producer, which is, hey man, this is what I'm thinking. And then he can make his edits and then we can talk it out. And I'm like, okay, so this, and then I got to go try to write that, maybe co-write it. He's very open to the process, but he might be okay with me just sitting down and hammering away and then doing his own pass. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't think he knows exactly what it's going to look like either. We're both excited, but for me, it's an opportunity to try writing on this other level because I'm so used to getting to do whatever I want. It doesn't always work that way. In fact, normally it doesn't work that way unless you're Nolan or Sean Baker.
Well, the other cool thing about working with him is that with Justin is that like even on the day of shooting, best idea wins, right? So if there's a line that we're like that at first you're like, yeah, this is a great line. Then you get on set and you're thinking, man, this is just not landing. Whatever. He's okay with that. Like best idea wins on set, and that's really pretty awesome. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. That's
Same.
Cool. Thank you for the insight into your process, because like that really clears a lot up for me, honestly, because maybe I'm like others who might be listening to this and that, you have something to say and you think maybe I want to do something, but one, you don't know where to start. Two, you have imposter syndrome and you think this isn't my realm. This isn't my lane, that's how I feel. Like, this is your lane. Mm-hmm. This is not my lane. My lane is all the shit that's in this room. And then I love watching films and talking about them and giving my opinions and stuff as everybody does. But writing one or writing, is not, it's not my lane, but that is ridiculous.
It is,
right?
We all have a story to tell, and I think everyone could tell one really amazing story. And my advice usually to people, because I've had a number of people over time say, man, my life would make a great movie, and it really wouldn't. Like, what would make a great movie is a moment out of your life. And if you find a really compelling moment, then you can build a story. It doesn't even have to be verbatim, right? It's like this idea of, I went home for the first time in 25 years and here's what I discovered. That could just be it. It's like, I'm going to take these moments and completely destroy it and make it unrecognizable. But the idea and how I felt, that's the truth in your story. Run with that. But yeah, I agree. No, there are no lanes. Like, if you have a story to tell in you, man, there's nothing stopping you. I was at home a week ago, and my uncle, married to my aunt, he was like, I was telling him about, I've been working on some stuff. He's like, oh, where are you publishing? Coverfly? And I was like, what? How do you know about Coverfly? And he's like, I've been writing. I wrote a screenplay. It's up there. And I'm like, wait, what? You wrote a screenplay, a feature-length screenplay? He's like, yeah.
Wow.
I just was watching movies and I've been stuck in bed. He's got some back issues, and he's like, it's just been stuck. And I was like, why not write? And I was like, awesome. Do it. Like, I want to read it. I'm, just to read it, not even to give you advice. And not that he asked for any advice. I was just like, that's awesome. Do it, man. There are no lanes, do the thing that's in your heart, man. There
are no lanes. Seamless. It's awesome.
Yeah. Writing is such a crazy landscape. You never know what's inside of you, what you're going to run into. And I guess, speaking of terrestrial encounters, what are we going to be covering today, my friend?
Perfect. Today we are covering Predator: Badlands. It's out in theaters now, so if you haven't seen the film, please pause this episode and go watch it, because we're going to spoil all the things. Yeah,
we'll dive into a little touch of the cinematography, talk about creating a visual look, and do a really nice deep dive, I think, on some of the story and writing. Talk about revealing character through actions, talk about theme, as well as weapons, and even how some of the theme is revealed in the weapons, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. A young predator outcast from his clan finds an unlikely ally on his journey in search of the ultimate adversary. It's directed by Dan Trachtenberg, Screenplay by Patrick Eison. Cinematography by Jeff Cutter, featuring Elle Fanning as Thia and Tessa, and Dimitrius Schuster-Koloamatangi as Deck.
Nicely done. No clip, I assume, our Yautja isn't very good these days, and so I'll spare y'all the remedial stuff.
Well done.
Dude, so Predator, not a great track record. Like, there's been, I think, one solid Predator movie, which was Prey.
Which I haven't seen and I keep wanting to see. And actually, when I was buying my popcorn last night, the guy at the register said, "Yeah, I loved Prey. Prey was great." I was like, "Really? Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah, anyway, Mid-Thunder is amazing, but solid movie. Otherwise, I mean, we've had like 100 or 3, I don't know. We had Predator, Predator 2, Predator versus Alien, Predator Takes Manhattan. I don't know, just a lot of Predators. Sorry.
What is it? Predator Goes on Vacation. Like, whatever.
Meet the Predators.
Wacky family.
Yeah. It's so
wacky Yautja family.
And so, what do you think, man? We're walking in. Predator Badlands has a great trailer. Big hopes, or maybe minimal hopes. I don't know. How'd you take it?
I had very low hopes, honestly, because I'm not a Predator fan. The original was really interesting and scary and all that stuff, or whatever. But I didn't. You're right. There hasn't been very good track record. I will just come out and say I loved this movie. Nice. I loved it. From the very beginning. That opening shot is gorgeous.
It
is
Denis Villeneuve, right? Like, just slow
very.
Push.
First thing I thought of was Dune. Great point. Absolutely. And if you think first and last shot, it's fantastic. You have that first shot. You're in the cave. You're coming out, really slow push out into the sun, and then you end with a push into the sun. But his mom's ship is coming towards him. It's like this huge. Like, I wish I would have seen it on IMAX. It would have blown my freaking mind. I don't even know if it is IMAX. If they shot it on IMAX, I don't think so. But anyway, when I saw that first shot, I thought, "Oh, this is good. Okay, cool." It's kind of crazy how, like, I don't know. I feel like usually I can tell if I'm going to like a movie from the very beginning. Mm. How do they start it? Do they care about the first thing that I see? Not care. I think everybody cares, but like, is the very opening shot just as important as the most important moment of the movie? Right. And I feel like it was just so thought out and I don't know. It was just gorgeous. And then the whole scene of him fighting who we don't know until, halfway through the fight that it's his brother, and it's brutal. It is just, they establish right away that there is no forgiveness at all. His brother literally tries to kill him and thought that he did, but then he doesn't die. He comes back up. "I'm still alive, brother." Great. Awesome. Let's do this. Let's keep going.
Pick your sword up.
Yeah. I felt like, okay, what's the most manly movie you can think of? Like, I don't know.
Dirty Dozen.
Sure. I felt like this is such a man's movie. Like, it really was, especially the first half of it. It's just this unforgiving, unrelenting. His father kills his brother and wants to kill him. His brother tries to kill his father, and then his unrelenting drive to prove that he can kill this beast, and like it's just brutal in all like these great ways that really bring me into the Yautja and what they stand for, what their whole clan is about, and all that stuff. And the thing is like, this story has been told. You know, where you have this brutal creature and like this other being that's kind and loving brings something else, brings a humanity, more of a humanity out of this brutal creature. That's been told many times before, but I don't know. I just really enjoyed it because he was so determined even after all of the kindness was done to him. It didn't matter. I'm still going to kill this thing. I'm still going to prove I'm not part of the clan yet. Even to the end, he ends up killing his dad, right? Like, and now he's part of the clan. You know, I guess the one who teaches him more humanity is still with him as he kills his dad and then becomes part of the clan. So like, there's a little bit extra in it. I do think there were moments that, like, you know, took a long time maybe to get through, but I was like in it from the very beginning to the very end. I just loved it. At first there were some moments with Elle where I was thinking that was kind of like a little cheesy, or like maybe didn't need to, like, I don't know, felt like the scripting was a little clunky, but then I had to remind myself, oh, she's a machine. Like, she will be talking different, like she will be delivering lines differently. And so I thought that she played both of those roles really well. I think that they really tried to honor Predator. You know, he didn't have cloaking until the very end, and then he gets cloaking. It was so fantastic. He never speaks any other language. Fantastic. Yeah, I love that.
I was worried. Didn't try to.
Yeah. I don't know if they do that in Prey. Don't tell me. But like they didn't try to humanize him in any other way. He just is who he is. He's a brute, right? He just will destroy everything. And then the creature he tries to destroy, what is it again? The Callisk?
Oh, the Callisk.
Callisk.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Callisk. That is, you know, because you're sitting there, you're thinking, what's his dad afraid of? His dad is like, oh my God. And then he cuts the thing's head off and it grows, and you're thinking, oh, that was easy. And then it grows back and you're like, oh my God. And then I didn't see, I think they also did a great job of not really letting you see the face of the creature super clearly. He's moving around so much. You see it, but you usually see it with the mouth open until the end, like towards the end. And then before I knew that little creature that follows them around was the baby, I saw the face of the Callisk and I thought, that looks a lot like, oh my God, you know, that's its kid. And when it sniffs him, right,
exactly.
That's the moment. And I was like, oh, I get it. So there's all these like cool little layers that I just love. I don't know. I just loved it, man. And I thought that it was so cool and fun. I cannot wait for the next one. Like, what's his mom going to be like? Oh my God. If that was his dad, what's his mom going to be like? I'm assuming there's going to be a next one, you know? I love that they did that. They did the title at the end and then they went straight to that. We didn't have to wait to the end credit scene. There's no reason to do that. Just get in and out, and that they're all part of a crew together now. I don't know. It just felt really like a great ending, honestly, like very satisfying, because you felt, that's the other thing, all of his facial expressions and everything. I'm sure a lot of that was practical. Maybe some of it was CG, I don't know, but I felt his pain when he was in pain, even without him screaming, you know, like he did a lot of yelling. And that's the other thing I'll say is talk about sound just really quickly.
Please, yeah.
But I felt his pain and his anguish and his determination too, in his face. And I don't know what Prey was like, but this is the first time I've seen this creature as like a good guy. You know what I mean? Oh, I can relate to this death machine, you know? And I thought it was beautiful. Last thing I'll say is the sound was tremendous. The soundtrack was fantastic. I to the point where I was looking up who did the sound. Oh my God, who did the soundtrack, right? And the mixing was just absolutely flawless and brutal when it needed to be and small when it needed to be and clear and crisp. It was so good in the theater that I loved the imagery and the color was fantastic. It was undersaturated a lot. There was no bright colors. There might have been like a moment or two where it was more saturated, like the eels scene where she's on his back and they're like running through in the eels. That's the only moment where I can see a lot of color. It was like really desaturated. It was perfect. But the sound, man, that is, if you don't see this in a theater, watch it with headphones because it's all around you. It's so great. So yeah, anyway, I loved it.
Nice.
Now, what did you think?
I'm a little more mixed. I love that Predator as a franchise needed a reset. Like, you really can't ruin this franchise. There's some franchises where you're like, don't do that. Like, if they tried to reset Die Hard, I'd be like, you just make a new franchise. Like, you don't need to brutalize this franchise for money. Whereas this, I'm like, do what you like. I literally do not care. It could be like Meet the Predators and it's like bringing Yautja home or like
Meet the Yautja.
Yeah. I would be fine with that. And this was a great new direction. I loved the themes. I love the idea of like sensitivity and community as a strength. And it plays so nicely into what we would assume about predators. And they gave us like a whole culture to start to like understand. This is our first real insight into their culture. That isn't just a glimpse or like an impression. Like they actually start to reveal things about, predator culture. And so, they incorporate Blade Runner. Dope. I'm in. Yeah, let's do that. So I was very close to loving this. The things that held me back was the silliness, not from Thia. I thought she was fantastic and made total sense to me that she would be this chirpy, happy-go-lucky, especially after you meet Tessa, who's the polar opposite of her. Like that whole element of her humor was perfect. I thought that was great. What I hated though was Bud, right? The little callous child. I thought he was just way too human, cartoonish. And that really pulled me out. It didn't mesh well with everything else they had built. I thought that like the final sequence, the animal cooperation that they were using felt just like way too big of a stretch and pushed me out of the story. Like this little snake companion that's just spitting its acid at will and exactly well targeted, and the Luna bugs exploding perfectly. That did not play at all for me. It felt a little too convenient. I like the idea of it. The execution I thought was horrendous, and it just made me feel like I'm really watching a movie right now, and all the kid-friendly things made me feel like we got to make sure that fourth quadrant is included here. And I hated it. I just did not love it at all. And that ultimately made this just an okay movie for me, because it just felt strained. It felt too much like a popcorn movie where we aren't going to honor the universe that we built for you. And that, really rubbed me wrong. And so I don't know, this on second viewing, as I was putting my notes together this morning, I was like, you know what? This has very strong like Mandalorian vibes, which isn't bad. Like if you're going to rob from the best. And the Mandalorian does some really great things. And this felt like it said, okay, I'll see your concept and I'll push you 5 steps further. Great way to start thinking about the story you're trying to tell. Because I'm sure they back after Prey, which I think is set in like the 1600s or 1700s or something like that. And that probably outperformed their expectations by a million miles. They're like, hey, let's back up the Brinks truck here and like whatever you want to do. And if you're Jan Trachtenberg, you're like, oh crap, what do I do? You start looking at what's in the kitchen and say, okay, we know Predator and Alien lives in the same universe, which means we get Weyland-Yutani. Okay. And I can't really just focus on Weyland-Yutani. That feels a little cheap and not what you're showing up for. You're showing up to see, and then the wheels start turning and he's got to be thinking, Predator's my main character. We can do a whole massive franchise reset where you're on their side now. But you can't just be on the side of the Predator. You have to also make Predator an enemy. Okay, now it's a family story. It's a little bit of Hamlet. Let's do that. And so from there, you're off to the races. You've got so many ingredients to play with. What do we do? Cool. And I thought this worked so well. I really did enjoy it. Like all the way up until I think that final battle sequence. Even I was still in it because the first big I don't know about that was the campfire scene where you have Bud emulating Deck, where he's like doing. That was silly. It was funny. I mean, for me, it was amusing. I could hear everyone else laughing, and I was like, okay, this is pushing the corny button a little far. But I laughed. Yeah, I was still with it.
I laughed at the light. He pulls his sword out, and then this lit stick. That was funny to me.
Yeah, I was amused for sure, and I was like, okay, let's not go too much further than that. And then it just kind of kept going. I just eventually pulled away. I was with them all the way up until that very last fight sequence in the camp. But that was kind of where I started okay, we have this strange problem, I think, in big budget movies to really push the envelope, and you don't know where that line in the sand is of believability versus giving your audience a really nice payoff. And I think he just stepped 5 steps beyond that line. There's a way to get right up to it and still make it satisfying. And then there's, let's give them a bang for their buck, and he just went too far. I don't know if that was more him or producer stepping in and saying no, you can go further. No, I don't really care. You're the director. Yeah. This is a director's medium. You went too far. For me, anyway. I'm sure not.
No, I agree.
Okay,
I do agree. I think that just from my experience with Predator, and he said, well, maybe his thinking was, the whole time he says, Yautja hunt alone, Yautja hunt alone. But then, he's different now. And so he's like, okay, well, I'm going to use the world that I'm in to hunt with, right? As more as tools, right? But I'm going to not hunt alone. I'm going to have this eel with me, which I know is weird and didn't really land for me either. But I'm just thinking, maybe that's what he was thinking of he's different now, so he's going to use tools. Whereas, in the jungle, in the first one, he just used himself, right? He had a cloak, he had his cloak at the time, but, or that Yautja had a cloak at the time. But this is, it would have been cooler if he was just a badass that didn't need anything still, at the end, and then maybe he gets saved by somebody. I don't know. But
I think thematically that's where they were certainly aiming. The execution was wonky for me. And so I'll come back to that in 1 second. I'll dive through a bunch of notes and jump in as you Lord pleases, as usual. Cinematography wise, the color palette, you already touched on this. I loved it. The blues and blacks, muted earth tones, desaturated world. So good. The color palette creates a lot of the visual contrast and film tone that we're going to be imbibing, and very much sets the look. Even though the actual contrast, and when you're talking about the amount of depth between the highlights and the shadows, it's not very crunchy. It's not actually a lot of contrast. Probably not very high, but it feels like there's a lot of contrast just by the choice of colors and by using a lot of whites and grays. It just feels contrasty. It's a really nice, happy medium to both have a bit of a clean look and also make the world that we're entering feel stark and dangerous. I thought it was just a brilliant use of color. I love the widescreen. We're on a cool planet. Let's create space to actually see the landscape and for stuff to fly through the frame and a wider composition makes this so much easier and more pleasing to the eye. It's lovely. It gives so much room to explore and to probably make a lot of like visual implications of where Deck is on his journey that I probably didn't even pick up on. And so I thought they just did a wonderful job of setting this look in a number of ways. And the visual effects overall, fantastic, like just top notch. I mean, the predators themselves are unbelievable. Like the textures, the small little trembles when they're talking, like their cheeks are blowing, was just floored. Like, this is award-winning stuff. They're going to at least get nominated for VFX. If they don't get any other nominations, they're getting one for visual effects. It's just unbelievable. And let's dive into the story and writing, because this is, for me, what was so juicy about this. And they do a really wonderful job of revealing character through actions, through decisions, because character choices make us connect with them, right? And they reveal who they are. You can say what you do, but to do it is another thing entirely. And so they open from the very beginning with that title, not a crawl, but the title text: Yautja are prey to none, friend to none, predator to all. They set our thesis right there on the cover. Like, these guys roll by themselves and they hunt everyone. Dope. Like, they're just reinforcing 3 times exactly what predators do, right? They're no one's prey. They don't have friends, and they kill everything. Sweet. Let's see this. And it's a thesis statement that ultimately we're going to upend by the end of the film, because it's the exact opposite, right? He ends the movie with friends, with his own tribe, and not being a predator to anyone but other Yautja. That's where we end. And that's really cool. And so the opening, that sequence that you and I both love, because I agree with everything you said. It's freaking dope. And it reveals so much about the story we're on, because we're so used to seeing Predator through the eyes of people. Well, now we're going to humanize predators. And to do that, we need to understand a little bit about who they are and how their culture operates. And so we learn so much about them through their actions, right? We learn Deck does not quit even when he's defeated, right? We learn that he idolizes his father. He's trying to fight like his dad, which we learn through dialogue, but the dialogue comes as a result of the action. And he loves his brother. Now, this is, again, another thing that's verbalized or implied through dialogue, that we learn he saved his brother, right? His big brother that he can't beat in battle. He saved him when they were kids, and that's how he chipped his tooth fang. But he doesn't beg Quay for his life, right? Quay is being given an order to kill him, and he's like freaking out, and Quay tells him, "Be brave, brother." And he does. He, sucks it up, doesn't blame him, doesn't beg him. He's accepting. This is what it is. I'm going to go with no fear in my heart. And then we also see that he's trying to impress him, right? This is a choice. He's making a decision. And in that way, I mean, it's an action. Like, he's making a decision of what trophy to collect. And so he's trying to impress his brother with choosing the one thing that scares his dad and that no other Yautja has ever killed. He's going to be the one. So he's trying to impress his brother through his determination and through his choice of prey. And then, of course, we learn a lot about Quay. He loves Deck. He defies his father, right? He chooses to save Deck and sacrifice himself. We learn a lot about the father, right? He hates weakness so much that he wants his own son dead, and he wants his other son to do it. And then when his son doesn't do it, he takes an action, right? He kills his son for the weakness of forgiving. And so this whole opening sequence reveals so much about predator culture and their specific family, and their dynamics, and that only strength matters. Anything else is weakness. It must be killed. That's super, super strong stuff. And it's all demonstrated. It's not talked about. We see it in action. That's huge, especially for an action film. Like, some of this stuff, maybe a little more, fungible with a drama. But in an action film, you really need to see the actions take place. And so, very cool. I love he crash lands on Jenna, and then we do a weapons check. This is very, very nice. He pulls out all his gear, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, we are not going to hold on to all of this, are we? Because you can't just go through seeing how all these, because gets to me into a rule of repeats. You don't show us how all these things work, and then we get to see them all work. You're telling us twice then, because the fun way would be to not show us how all these things work. We just see them, and then we see how they work through action, through like he's taking on enemies and he's whipping out these cryo grenades or whatever. Instead, we're going to show you how they work, and then we're going to take them all away, or at least most of them. Right? Let's see all these badass toys he has for killing, and then strip them, and maybe even use them against him. Right? The cryo grenades become his way of his fall. That's awesome. And in that way, we should see what's in his arsenal because it's going to be used against him later. And that's a brilliant little touch, a nice little flourish. And so the way they take them away reveals so much about the planet, right? This is a dangerous planet. He can't even take 5 minutes to like make sure his gear's still working, right? And it also shows how resourceful Deck is. Because he's on the verge of being killed 1,000,000 times. But he doesn't stop, and he's having his stuff ripped away, and he's still finding a way to work his advantage through his intelligence. Like, it's great. He gets to keep his sword and his dagger, but loses everything else. And even by the end of the movie, he even loses those things. Right? In the finale, he doesn't have his sword, doesn't have his dagger. He fights an AI in a mega power loader, like the power loader we see at the end of Aliens. It's that if it's like 3 stacked on top of each other, like it's just the biggest, fastest power loader you've ever seen in your movie life. And he has to fight an AI in one of those things with only his wits and nature. This is the ultimate battle of strength and technology versus what's inside of you, which is an excellent use of theme. My God, right? Theme isn't just a thing to give the story some emotional depth. It's represented within the action itself. The emotional stakes are realized in the physical stakes. Does strength matter more than your ability to connect with nature and understand the world around you versus conquering it? Like, that's dope. It's a cooperation versus straight dominance, right? And it lets you see by taking on the peak of technology within a giant robot with nothing but your hands. What could be a better representation of this whole philosophy that we're debating throughout this movie? And maybe they go a little bit too far, but that's what they're trying to do with the bug bombs and the snaky thing. It just felt unbelievable. There's a way, I think, though, to do those things without going full silly goose. But I love what they were attempting to do, for sure, because it is all about like cooperating with nature and being sensitive to your surroundings as opposed to dominating it. And that's this whole movie in a nutshell. I have a couple more notes on like Thia and all that stuff, but yeah. Does that land with you, like what they were doing in terms of stripping away his technology and his weapons and making him use nature? Yeah.
And I think that's what you're kind of like getting at, of like, it's a little bit fantastical. I mean, and this is a really great conversation because it's really hard to tell a fantastical story without being fantastical, too fantastical. Right, yeah. Because this is fantastical, right? There is no AI robot that exists. We can't get to another planet. There is no Yautja. There is no, Kalisk, right? Ridiculous. There are no eels that shoot venom. However, if there are, it's too fantastical that he could train one.
Right.
I mean, yeah, probably. Yes, it kind of is. It kind of is. Cause like it's a wild creature. And so you're just going to give it treats and now it's going to like obey you without you having to like really even ask it. So yeah, but it's interesting because like there is the line, right? The whole movie is fantastical, but there is a line that like they did cross. That's kind of like, well, I know the whole thing is not real, but this is even more unbelievable. So I totally agree there. I do love just the idea, like you said earlier, of bringing us into the Yautja world and their culture and having us understand it. I mean, there's definitely a line of Native American in this, right? They're in touch with nature. They're in touch with their surroundings. They are brutal in that they do not quit. They do not stop. There is or there is not. There is no black. It's black and white. It is not. There's no gray area, and they have to be because of the brutality in which they live. And I think not that all Native Americans have, but I think that there is a parallel here of using what's around you to succeed. And determination, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's beautiful because this is such a good message of like working with nature and like in our era of, being tech heavy. I think there is a really nice, appealing aspect of just finding a way to mesh more with your world instead of dominating it and pouring concrete all over it and like ruining it. This is a really nice conversation to be thinking about. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if that's something Dan Trachtenberg is very passionate about. Yeah. And Thia, so to continue here, Thia is really nice because she steps in and she is exposition for so many things, like of the planet, right? The dangers, the beasts, but she's also exposition of even Dek and Yautja culture, right? And so we're learning so much through her explanation, but also through her contrast, because this is a great way to demonstrate Dek's grit by going against her advice and winning, but also by his resistance to using her at all and his resistance to her ideology. And we see that encapsulated. I mean, this whole movie is so good to me, if nothing else, because of how pithy they are with describing the themes and dialogue. Like, it would probably take somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes of all the dialogue in this movie to get through what the themes are that they're trying to convey. It's very efficient. And I love that. It doesn't take a lot, especially in an action movie. In an action movie, we're here to see stunts and stuff, and they do a great job of balancing the sequences of action with downtime, exploring the planet, as well as working in very briefly these moments of theme. And I just love the overall flow of the film. I'm probably going to keep coming back to the idea of flow a lot after that Guillermo del Toro interview. But I think it just works so good. And their contrast, Thia and Dek, makes them a great pair for fleshing out the theme, right? Sensitivity is weakness versus sensitivity is understanding and a strength. He represents strength and she represents sensitivity. Perfect conflict. She thought, and I love that we still see her weaknesses. It's not like she's just a purely perfect Mary Sue version of what sensitivity is, because it's hurt her, right? She thought Tessa would save her. And she thinks you catch more flies with honey, with kindness. You can, but we see how that actually hurts her and how it holds her back, because she thinks Tessa is really her sister, and she finds out actually Tessa doesn't care anything about her. Tessa was using her. She was never coming to rescue her. She needed the yin to her yang. She needed Dek, who was strong physically and his independence. They are balancing each other, and she needs him just as much as he needs her. And it's a really wonderful coming together of contrasting ideologies. But they both have something to learn, is my point here, right? And their clans are not worthy of them because he thinks he can kill anything by himself and that kindness gets you killed. And we're going to learn throughout the film, he's wrong. Like, he really doesn't understand as much as he thinks he does. And her big betrayal, and I love this, isn't that, she led him to the nest and then, is now kicking him out, that she used him. That wasn't her big betrayal. It was actually that she's betraying her own philosophy, that her sensitivity is being used to exploit nature. It's not just understanding. It's understanding for exploitation, right? Thia and Tessa, they take creatures for research. The predator takes for trophies. But both are exploiting, and both of them are exploiting in a way that there is no personal gain other than tribal recognition. They're both taking trophies, right? The AI aren't benefiting personally from, taking the Yautja. They're not getting anything out of the extension of life that we're going to learn through the Kalisk, right? They're not gaining anything, but they're excited about the humans being happy. They're going to be so pleased with us. That's the same thing Deck is doing. It's the exact same thing. How he's going to take this trophy to his clan, and now they're going to accept him. They both have the same flawed philosophy of destroying something for the sake of other people's pleasure and acceptance. And they both...
and isn't it cool that like the AI, Tessa and Thia, they report to Mother, and then at the end, his mother shows up? I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Great point.
Yeah.
Great point. And
did you see how Mother is spelled?
Yeah.
MU/TH/UR. I don't know what that means, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've looked that up. I forget too, but it goes back to Alien, right? Goes back to the start.
Does it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah,
I believe it. Yeah. Okay.
It's freaking dope. And they both need to reconcile their true beliefs and how they do not align with their own cultures. They need to start a new clan. And I love it. I love that we see a little bit of progress whenever Deck kills the bone bison. That's a really nice moment. Bud, the little mini Kalisk, saves them both from the Lunabug. And then he turns around and saves Bud from the Lunabug too, by killing it. And it's a progress on Deck learning his lesson about community. It's small, but he's helped by someone, and then he also helps someone else. He could have killed, if it was really just about killing things, he would have killed Bud. He didn't. Bud earned his respect, and it's not even really there. It's just a very light implication. But the fact that he doesn't kill Bud is all the proof that you need. In fact, he makes camp with him, right? Or her. And then the next morning, he leaves her. But he doesn't kill her. There's something to be said about a predator not killing something.
Totally. And I do like the touch of like Bud spitting on him, and then we see, smelling the mother smelling him and doesn't kill him. And
that was great.
Obviously that told me everything I needed to know.
Yeah.
Without saying a word. It was perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. I wish we would have just kept Bud a little bit more animalistic. And because I
totally get you.
I think that's such a good idea and a great execution of the idea. Like, I love it so much. I thought that was a brilliant little wrinkle, for sure. I also love whenever they meet Deck and Thia. I think that's a great meeting to reveal how he needs someone else, and how she needs someone else too. And whenever they meet, we immediately get a new goal. Thia needs her legs because he's just hunting the Kalisk, and he's not doing very well. But as soon as he meets her, we get a new goal right away. Thia needs the legs, and if she gets them, she will help Deck find the Kalisk. And I also like that he rejects it outright. Yautja hunt alone. So we have a proposition, we have a rejection, and then we get a chance to see what she does to get her way. This is very satisfying whenever you have conflict and you have to see someone, and we're immediately, because she's a humanoid robot, we immediately are identifying with her, and we're seeing the way that she's going to manipulate him by giving him like an out. She gives him an excuse. Okay, yeah, you want to hunt alone, but I'm just a tool. You use tools, right? And we know he has a lot of tools. He's got his little laser blaster on his shoulder. He's got his little night vision mask thingy. He's got swords and bombs, and he uses tools. Come on, bro. And now she's along for the ride. Great. And then, of course, we see how he reacts, whenever she's not acting like a tool anymore. And he's like, hey, if you're not going to help me, you're not a very good tool. And it's nice pull and push there. And so a really great use of, okay, we're going to give him a new character, and then we're going to see how this impacts the rest of his journey.
And to add to that, in that meeting, she changes how she speaks, right? And she says out loud, I can say whatever, and whomever's listening hears me in their language.
Oh.
We, as the viewer, hear her in English because we speak English. He hears her in Yautja, so yeah, I think that's really smart. And but it could be super cheesy and too much explanation there. But the way that they execute it was really, I don't know. It was like really eventful. Like it made me feel like, okay, yeah, I get this. Now I understand you, and he understands you because you just, of what you just said, that one line. So
absolutely, they do a great job because there's some visual elements to it. When we're watching her, she tries out one dialect, doesn't seem to work. She processes, and then she starts talking. And so there's that visual element, and with the sound design there, and then his reaction. And it's one of those things, sometimes you really just need to explain something for the audience's sake. Now, she gets to have some coverage of talking to him, but there's no reason he needs to know that everyone hears what they'll hear. Like, that doesn't really apply to him, right? All he knows is he's hearing Yautja.
You're right, but she has to say it out loud because we need to know that.
And you know what?
We do, yeah.
Say it, get it out of the way, make it as small and fast as possible. We will appreciate it in all the ways, because I was like, okay, we understand why we hear English and he doesn't. Cool. We're okay with that. Just to your point, you don't have to over-explain it.
Yes. And that's the problem that we have with most movies, is that they over-explain stuff. They're just like, you get it? You get it? Do you get it now? You get it? Like, she gives a one-sentence line, I got it, move on. And then I understand the rest of the movie, how this is working,
Yep.
So
tight and efficient. I love it. My last little notes here are just about, I labeled this, who cares? Which is, for me, really good information about, she gets captured, right, and taken back to base. He escapes. He falls out of his ship. He walks back to her base, her original destroyed outpost. That's where he meets back up with Bud. And then they realize, okay, he finds her legs, activates them. Great. Very smart way to track her down, because he doesn't know where she is, but the legs do. He'll just follow the legs. Great. They walked all the way to the base in the middle of the night. Like, that ship traveled pretty fast for a pretty long while, and yet they got there. You know what? Okay. No one cares. You know why? Because we just want to see them get there and start the fighting. We don't care about all the new obstacles they would encounter along the way. We've seen them face plenty of obstacles already. Let's just see them get there. This is, for me, one of those things where you can overwrite and just be like, yeah, but how do they get there? You know what? This is the old adage, cut to the chase. Just cut and they're there. That's all we care about. There's a time and a place to show them laboring through, and the first 80% of this movie was exactly that. We've seen enough of that. We get it. Let's move on. And I love that. my other little note in this, alpha wolves are not real. This did bother me. This is an old mistake from, I don't know what you would call it, but like zoologists, studying wolves. They thought that there was an idea of an alpha wolf. I don't think this is an actual real thing, and that the original like person who discovered that now is like, that was a bit of a misnomer. And actually, there's parents. They're much more of a family unit than we thought. There is no alpha. Like that's kind of a BS thing. And so part of me is really rubbed wrong by that, but also kind of who cares, because it's a story tool. It's something to reveal about Deck. And it's another thing for us to understand how he operates and sees the world. And so in a lot of ways, it doesn't really matter. We're not here to learn about nature in that way. We're here to learn about the struggle about being dominating versus cooperative. And this is one of those elements that helps tell the story. So you know what? Who cares? But also,
yeah,
I'm bugged.
Yeah, no, I get that. It would have been just as effective to not talk about a single alpha and talk about just working as a group and being able to survive, and as a group only. Like a single wolf can't survive, but the group together all survive together, right? Yeah. That would have been much more effective, I think. I whether it exists or not, I don't know, an alpha, but like I do feel like it was a little bit of like, why are we talking about one powerful thing, creature, instead of like the group being powerful? Like that's because she does need to reference something on Earth, because she's from Earth. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be, the Blagada Blugada on the Blagada Blee planet, because we don't have any reference of the Blagada Blugada. We have reference for wolves. So I get that, but yeah, that's a great point about the alpha. I had no idea, but it makes sense.
My last little takeaway was at the end of the movie when the Colossus explodes and, it looks like everything's right with the world. Tessa has been swallowed by the Colossus, and then it freezes and just explodes. We found a way to kill the Colossus, which was from the inside. And Dak goes flying back. I really actually like this shot because he flies back almost exactly like he does in the opening when he loses his brother and leaves Yautja Prime. There's that really nice slow-mo shot of him flying away from the camera. And I think there's something symbolic there. Whereas in the opening, he's losing his clan. And in this moment, it feels like he's losing it as well. It's slipping away, and he has to now fight for it. He has to fight a whole new alpha, right? This AI bot that's trying to destroy him, and this is his moment now to claim his trophy. And it's this beautiful, simple visual reflection of two different states of being: the time that he lost actually everything, and this time that he's on the cusp of losing everything, and now he can take action. It's super, super subtle stuff, but it's the kind of thing as a director that I'm looking for. And I'm like, oh, I love these little visual representations of an idea. And yeah, that's stuff that I incorporate into my work. And so hats off to Dan Trachtenberg.
And, you saying that also makes me think of like, why do I, whether it's me or just like, men in general, or just people in general, not just men, look at a creature like the Yautja and like take inspiration from that. Like what I'm saying is they live in a world where, like you said, they battle and then they battle and then something happens and they battle and now there's a new battle and it just never stops. Even on their own planet, it just never stops. It is always 100%, like determination all the time. And I think that like sometimes that is needed to, what was it? my son is playing basketball now, and it's hard for him. He, he doesn't have like the strength to really shoot very far. I mean, I think he does. He just doesn't know it. Like, that's the thing. It's like there are smaller kids on the team that can shoot from 3-point range, really great shooters, and he just can't get it there, right? But I think that he can. But the point is like, he gets frustrated, and it's interesting because like there is no growth without challenge. And so in a way, the Yautja are like, they're the epitome of just not quitting. There is nothing that will stop Dec ever. Nothing could happen to him that will stop him. And I am 100% like, I understand that. Like, there's never a moment in this movie where I think that he's going to stop. Not a moment. And that really like not only does that help me continually understand the Yautja in general, but it's also kind of inspiring of like, if there is something that you want or that you feel like you need to do, you just need to never stop. Like, just keep going. And when you start hitting walls, understand you're hitting walls because you're close, right? Or like you're closer. And there's a reason why you're hitting walls, because there are filters. Everybody who kind of wants it is going to fall off, right? And the Yautja, or Dec specifically, is just like so freaking determined. There is even when he's blown back after the Calyx dies, that's not going to stop him. His brother dying, that's not going to stop him. Like, he is just always 100% determined. And I think that's just, it's funny because it's inspiring. You know what I mean? It just really is. He's just like there is no quit. It's even more so, you look at a movie like Rocky, like it's like timeless, don't quit, keep going, work through, like fight through it, film. But there are moments where you're thinking, oh, like he wants to quit and stuff, and he's questioning things. There is not a single moment in this guy's brain that he is ever going to stop. You know what I mean? I think it's like super, super cool to actually have a movie like that, where you have a protagonist who you trust to take you to the finish line. Because there are some movies where you have like the main person and you think, well, they're not going to quit because it's a movie and they're going to get to a certain finish line. But there are moments that they doubt themselves. There's not a single moment where this guy doubts himself, and I love it.
That's so awesome.
Sorry, that was a long-winded way of saying that. But.
No, but I love it. Like, there's several of those moments at the beginning of the film when he's got Thea on his back and he's hunting the big bison and the Luna bug, and she's like, maybe it's time to like find an alternate path, and he's just like, you give up too easily. Like, he says it twice, and it's just very like, okay, I'm going to show you what it means to be a Yautja, and we love it, like, because we're thinking, yeah, but what are you going to do? And that's the brilliance of the writing, is I'm going to show you, like, okay, there are some things that can't be conquered through pure brute strength, but they can be conquered through wit, which is, again, reinforcing the elements of this whole theme. And we get to see that in action. And getting to see those things play out gives us, because every time we think, this guy is done, and it starts at the beginning with his brother, like he falls, and we're like, how is he going to survive this? Because, oh man, one of my favorite shots in here, maybe my favorite shot, at the beginning of his fight with his brother, he falls and he like spits out like the rope, right? The anchor. And his brother like moves and like slices the rope. He cuts his lifeline. And he's like, okay, now what? And I love that 1-2 bang bang approach, because on the one hand, it looks like he's found a retaliation that's both going to knock his brother down as well as save him from his fall. And his brother's quick reaction as well saves himself, as well as makes it harder for Dec. And so it's the old adage I got from Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, word player. Smart villains, smarter heroes. Like, you really want the people that you're going up against to be very, very competent. and that gives an opportunity for your hero to prove their worth. This is a really solid movie, man. Final thoughts?
I loved it.
That's awesome.
I could watch it again right now. I'm excited for the next one. Hopefully there is going to be a next one. It's another thing. I hope that people go to the theater for stuff like this because it is a newer story. I mean, yes, an older story, but it's a new take on this story, on this type of story. And I want theaters to be full.
Yeah.
I want, like these kinds of films to make money because it just insinuates to make more newer kind of like takes on things, and yes, it's not a perfect film, but I really don't expect perfect films. Like I really don't. Everything is human. There's going to be things that like I would do differently or I didn't like or whatever. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's your take on it. And I feel like this is new enough and gives me a different perspective enough to warrant and garner maybe like another one in a series. I also think the last thing I'll say is like the one thing I was really worried about in this movie is the one thing I loved, which was seeing too much of the Predator. One thing I loved about the original was that you don't get good looks at him. You know what I mean? And that we talk about it all the time. Like, some of the best movies, you don't really get a good look at the bad guy, So the bad guy in your head is way worse because you don't really get to see him. And so I was worried. I was like, I know there's been other movies where you see a lot of him, like Predator versus Alien, stuff like that. But, we're going to live with this guy for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, am I going to just be like, whatever? But to your point, man, the CG or the way that he looked was so emotional. Like the shaking of his face before he would scream, his eyes, like, a lot of times sometimes his brow would move, but a lot of times it wouldn't. And you would just see it in his eyes, and the way that his head moved and it shook right before he would yell. And God damn it, the sound. So good. It was so good. I was in it. It's a perfect example of sound making a movie or breaking it. If the sound wouldn't have been that good, it wouldn't have landed as well as it did. But I was just inside of the movie. It was so good. So good.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's doing really well at the box office. I suspect this will grow stronger. Like, it did $40 million in the opening. I think word of mouth is going to give this a boost. And so a budget of $105 million, which is a healthy budget for sure. But I think I suspect we'll see more Predator films in this universe
I'm surprised it's only $105 million.
Yeah.
Only because like there's so many. I mean, what was it? Was it the last what was the last Leo movie we just did?
One Battle After Another?
Yeah, that's almost $200 million for that movie. $200 million almost. I think it was like 180 or something like that. Wow. And this movie, right? They're
differing reports. This is a Google AI summary. 130 to 100, somewhere between 130 and 175.
Yeah, for that movie, right? And I don't know. I don't look at that movie and I see $175 million. I just don't. Sorry. It's probably because of all like the A-list actors in it. But this movie is so CGI heavy. It feels like an effective $105 million.
Yeah.
So it's still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but dear God.
Good.
Anyway.
Yeah. And I love seeing Elle Fanning on screen. I think she is just so talented and she really does pick good projects. She still hasn't let me down. Like, this was still a great project. I know why she picked it. I'm glad my faith in her is still there. And I like seeing her on TV. Like, The Great on Hulu is so good, so worth watching. But I love seeing her in movies, and I hope she'll keep doing like big screen stuff because we need A-listers who can bring an audience, and we just don't have that many anymore. And so anything that she can do to help, like you said, keep theaters full will be good. I'll be happy for it. Nice. What are you going to recommend this week?
I'm going to recommend a show that I started watching last night. I'm not through it all, but I saw some really good reviews, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to see what it's all about. I'm going to recommend Pluribus. It's a new was you going to recommend it?
No.
Gotcha. I win. I've only seen the first episode, and there's 3 out right now. So the next 2 episodes are going to be really interesting, but it's Vince Gilligan, who, we all know Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And so I trust him, with my life. Maybe not with my life, but with my time, I will say. And it's a really interesting start. It's fantastical, but it's, kind of space alien based or whatever, but we don't know really. At least I don't yet in the first episode, but I'm hearing really good things, and I enjoyed the first episode at least. So yeah, Pluribus.
Nice. What else did you like about Pluribus?
You want me to keep talking for a second? I stole it. I'm sorry.
I'm so glad you're watching it, though. It really is worth watching. Vince Gilligan.
Okay, cool.
It took me a while to recognize Rhea Seehorn, if that's how you pronounce her name. But once I did, I was like, she's from...
Was she in?
Better Call Saul.
Oh, okay, yeah.
To me, she's like the best thing about Better Call Saul. She is so freaking good.
She's great.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, yeah, what else? Let
me see. I recommend coaching your kids' sports team. Also, it's been fun. We've had 2 practices, and I was very stressed out because I've never coached basketball before. I mean, I know basketball, I understand it, I know most of the rules, and I played it growing up, not extensively, but I'm decent. But I'm more of I played a lot of football growing up, so it was like very nervous. The first practice was okay. The second practice was really great. And we did a little scrimmage with the other team that's practicing there, and we demolished it. I got some Steph Curry shooters, man. I got like 2. I've got a really good center. I've got a really good point guard. I've got a really good power forward. And
holy crap.
I mean, like, really, at your
stage, if you have a good power forward or a good center,
the center, he's like a foot taller than everybody else.
Oh,
I'm not kidding. And my point guard, he's like 4 feet tall. He's tiny, and yet he's so fast. He's so fast, But I'm trying to, like, the thing that I need to just make sure that I continue to do is, like, make it fun for everyone. Whether they are good or not, or know how to play or not, or whatever, and then find their strengths and put them in a position to be able to score. Cause like there's going to be kids that are shooting threes and making them a lot because some kids are really good shooters, and there's going to be other kids that are struggling to make a layup. So it's hard. It's like,
it can't just be about winning by itself. It's not the age range for that kind of competitive
I don't care about
approach.
I literally don't care about winning at all. I do not care. I know the kids do. Yeah. They want to win. Yeah. I don't care. I just want everybody to have fun and have an opportunity to score. And it's a little hard to coach your son or your kid just in general, because you're your dad. They don't want to listen to you, and then they get frustrated afterwards, and they tell you how frustrated they are with you, or that you did this or you didn't do that or whatever. And Simon's the kind of kid who, like, wants to be really good, and he loves the stuff until he sees, like, oh, there's other kids that have been playing for years and are like out of this world, and then it demoralizes him a little bit. And I just hammer home, I don't care how good anybody is. Just try a little harder to be better than you were yesterday. For you, do not compare yourself to anybody else. And I think that he hears that, and I think that he knows it, but I just want to make sure to continually hit that home. Wow. That doesn't matter how good anybody else is. All all that matters is that you're having fun and that you feel like you're a little bit better now than you were last practice. That's it,
Wow.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but it's been fun so far.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to recommend Elle Fanning once again on Hulu, The Great. This is a show, it's a period piece, and it's her being Catherine the Great, and that's a really interesting story. I didn't really know all the wrinkles of that story, and so getting a fairly honest look, and it's comedy, so they are taking some liberties, but you actually do get to see or get a sense of what she was dealing with, and if for no other reason, like Elle Fanning is fantastic, but the real reason to watch that show is Nicholas Hoult, who plays her husband, and he is lights out, hilarious, incredible, and he's got a really hard role to play, and he just in spades. I highly recommend watching it, if for nothing else, for him. He is just a great reason, and that's me. I like to watch a show if I see a good performance. Like I watched Killing Eve just for Jodie Comer. Like after a certain point, I stopped caring about the story, and I was just like, I'm really just watching to see her performance. And so The Great is another reason, a lot of reasons to watch that, but yeah. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to take a look back into the 90s at Jean Reno and Luc Besson's The Professional. We'll see Natalie Portman and how she broke out back in the day. So yeah, take a look at The Professional next week. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, drop us a review. And if you want to comment on this episode, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/PredatorBadlands.
How do you pronounce his name? De Vries?
De Vries, yeah.
Yeah. De Vries. Our quote of the day is from Peter De Vries, from Reuben. Sometimes I write drunk and revise sober. That makes it makes a lot of sense. You just, you turn your brain off and just let whatever come out. And then when you have your senses, you say, okay, this is good. This is shit. This is good. This is shit. Yeah,
absolutely. No matter what you're writing, it's do the fun thing. And sometimes I find myself doing this where there's an idea I have, and I know it's something I may not want long-term, but I have to let it play for a bit. I have to give it its moment before I can kill it. I have to experience it and let it breathe. And then whenever I've given it enough time, I can go back and say, okay, that was fun, but now I can move on from that. And you can usually only get that with time, but you also you really need to sometimes give it its moment so that you can honor yourself with this idea that you had before you kill your darlings. That's always the big thing. Kill your darlings, which just means if it's not serving your story, the story you're really trying to tell, it doesn't matter if it's a really funny line. It's the funniest line you've ever written. If it's not in compliance and helping you tell your story, you really need to get rid of it. And this is, to me, that idea. It's write the fun stuff, turn off your brain, have fun, but then go back and say, okay, that was all fun and games, but what am I actually trying to say here? Cool. This is what we can do now. I love that attitude. And usually that's misattributed to Hemingway. I'm sure I've said it was Hemingway a million times, but when I went to pull up that quote, that's when I found out. I was like, oh, Hemingway did not say this. Very interesting. Because usually it's Hemingway said, write drunk, edit sober. But it's really because he really, Papa liked to drink. And so,
yeah.
And so we assume he said it, but maybe not.
Gotcha. Awesome. This is fantastic. I love this conversation. You had some really great insight that kind of opened my eyes to some of these moments. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. Make sure to join us next week when we cover The Professional, and review us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if there's a film that you'd like to see us talk about or pick apart, let us know. Maybe we'll cover it. And it all helps. All of this, everything that you can do to let us know that you're listening helps. Until next time, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies.